All right, y'all, we made it to the finale. Episode 12, Escape. Surviving El Chapo has been fun. We're not done. This side of the story, this perspective, we've gone through. Now there's other perspectives to pick up on, other people to listen to, and see what we pick up from there. We're going to react to a whole lot of different things on this channel, not just cartel stuff. So I'm looking forward to y'all following me in the future. And on that note, if you haven't subscribed, please do so now. Last time we saw the twins, they finally got their Chapo tape, and then they had to go break it to their father that they were cooperating. Father was disgusted, disowned them. The United States attorney wants them to turn themselves in now. Let's see where they end up.
The hardest thing I had to do was to face my father.
Was that the last time you spoke to your father?
That was the last time I seen him. And I don't think we even left with like a handshake, nothing. Kind of in silence. He stood there, sitting there in the dark. When he just walked away. I do remember that when we were on our way to turn ourselves in, and we were driving away from our subdivision, I seen him driving down the street. I was able to see him. He didn't see me, but I was able to see him. He was going one way and I was going the other. In retrospect, I felt like that was the life I was leaning toward. I was going one way and he was literally going the other way.
And both ways were the way he started when y'all were born.
I think we've all experienced these situations in life. Maybe not to this extreme, but where everything is pulling you in one direction, in your heart you feel like you need to go in another direction, so you do what's right for you. Peter and Jay's father was their mentor in life. He taught them everything they knew about the drug trade and how not to get caught. Someone you're supposed to love unconditionally, now telling you that trying to do things the right way is actually the wrong thing. For most kids, spending times with their dad is playing ball on the weekend. But for the Flores twins, it was doing drug runs across the Mexican border, packaging weed into gas tanks, and unintentionally being a cover story to distract authorities from suspicious activities. After wrestling with it for 20 years, they were finally in a position where they had a chance to write a new path for the Flores name.
50 said something interesting there. He said, you find yourself in a position where you have to do what you have to do for you. I don't know if you guys know about Alpo. That's another story we'll probably get into in the future, but he's a famous cooperator, snitch, rat, whatever you want to call him, recently passed away. And he used to explain it like that. He'd be like, you call it snitching, I call it I did what I had to do for me. Not everybody lives by the same code, and if the code is able to fluctuate and change and be manipulated, there is no code. Best advice I could give you, and the moral of the story is stay your ass away from a life that you ain't ready to live all the way to the end. Otherwise, you'll be labeled whatever the people want to label you.
2 weeks after the Chapo recording, and we get a call. It's a Sunday. Our attorney wants to talk to us. It's early, right? 10, 11 in the morning, around there. And he said, the U.S. attorney wants to talk to you. He said, he wants you guys to turn yourselves in today. I remember looking at each other like, wow, this reality just hit us. Huh? What? I remember our attorney, like, he was more than our attorney. To us, he was family. And I remember he sat there quiet and he was like, guys, maybe you guys don't have to do this.
Too late.
I want you guys to think about this. I remember my brother was like, it's too late for that. We talked to the DA agent and he said, guys, it's time. We can't risk you guys anymore, and all this will be for nothing if something happens to you guys, and we want you guys to turn yourself in 2 hours.
2 hours? They only gave you 2 hours notice?
And I said, what about our family, whatever? They're like, guys, like, you guys gotta get them out of there. And basically, that wasn't the problem. We were like, the fuck do you, we were upset, like, that we were not being told these things, that we're like last minute, we're the ones in the middle, like we're the ones there.
How many times have they told you that you're on your own? As far as they're concerned, you're walking into a police station and turning yourself in. They didn't plan it out. There's no appointment. There's none of that. Your family needs to drive away from the house right now.
Do you mean 2 hours? Like, what's your plan? Like, oh, we can't tell you anything. I remember he also said, guys, There's a lot of people here betting that you guys are not going to do it. This has never been done. They didn't even believe what they had. They didn't believe that we were going to change our life. They didn't believe we were going to turn ourselves in. I was confused. I was lost. I was like, now I was actually taking it in. I wasn't concerned about nothing else but about my kids. One of the hardest things I've ever had to endure in my life, like, that hurt me, that I could replay in my mind over and over again, and I did for 12 years, was actually like saying goodbye to my family the day I turned myself in. I felt like I was abandoning them. Here I was supposed to be doing something good, right? And I'm leaving them in harm's way. I went and I told Val, like, it's time. They're asking me to turn myself in.
I don't think I understood. I think I was more in shock. We never knew how long it was gonna last, but we didn't think it would come that fast. We had no exit plan.
As smart as y'all are, as much as y'all been in the game, as much as y'all were built for this, there's no plan. 9 months of taking steps to get the information you need and to get the evidence that you need and to get the deal that you need. What did you guys think was going to happen after you turned in the tape? All of this stuff and no planning. Listen, the day that they call, you grab those bags, you grab that open-ended ticket or whatever, you take your ass to the airport, you get gone.
We didn't know what we were supposed to do. And I just went into like survival mode. 2 hours, like, oh my God. We had cameras all around the house. We had to get the security footage out. We have to get anything with their name on it out. When we leave, the cartel's gonna come and they're gonna go through our whole house and they're gonna try to find us. Anything that had our name on it.
There should have been a plan for all of that. For people as supposedly meticulous as they were, why wasn't there an escape plan like that? You do this, you do this, you do this, we get out, done deal, because it's going to go down. If you were committed to cooperating, if you were committed to what you were going to do, then you knew that something had to come next. Instead, you get caught with your pants down on your way to turn yourself in.
Just trying to get my son's birth certificates and papers and like trying to find everything that was just important. Yeah. I'm worried about them finding us and papers and like anything with their name, addresses back in the States, like Chicago.
Yeah, that can lead them to anything.
Yes, pictures. I was grabbing all the frames off the walls and just ripping the pictures out of the frames because I didn't want them to have pictures of us.
Everyone's like, what the fuck is going on?
Who was everyone, like the workers? What were you saying?
And I said, Val's mad. She said she wants to leave. Mad? She wants to leave. She said she's leaving me. What? She's mad. She wouldn't be okay. She's like, why? She's thinking something. Who knows? Just leave her. And they're seeing her like practically tear the house up, and they're like trying to help her with anything, and just like, okay, like.
Should have told them the feds were coming or something.
I remember telling her, go bring the car. She wants to leave. I'm not even concentrating on that, Charlie. I'm not there with her. You know, I actually have my son, you know, my baby, I'm carrying him. Like, anything I'm doing, I'm trying to spend those last precious moments with him.
Oh, man. Y'all better go on with this bullshit. Listen, man, I get it, man. You're going to miss your son. You're going to love your son. You don't know what's happening, but you got to make it out of this point. You can't just check out. Listen, you'll never hug your son again if they find a piece of paper with a Chicago address or something that they could trace back to that boy. You're not worried about that kind of protection at that moment. You're worried about hugging him and loving on him while your wife is trying to clear the slate and make sure that there's no evidence that could trace back to y'all. This is all to prove a point. This ain't like the movies. You never know what you're going to do until you're in the situation and the shit's hitting the fan. But it's pretty disappointing that getting them on an airplane or in a car or somewhere safe is not your number one priority. Keeping them alive. I'd sacrifice the last hug with my son if I know he's going to be all right.
It was just chaotic. we have babies.
I remember Peter and Viv coming over the house. And they live right next door, and they're there with my niece, and Viv is sitting there in shock. And I'm just like running around the house.
Everybody checked out. Y'all left Val holding the bag. Everybody in shock. Y'all better get over y'all shock before them cartel boys show up over there.
And I'm looking at her like, why is she so calm? Why is she not doing what I'm doing? They're gonna fucking find us. Why is she just sitting there? And like, I'm going through every drawer, every piece of paper I'm taking, like.
And Viv should be back at her house doing the same.
Paper I'm taking, like every picture, every videotape from the security footage, ripping everything out the walls. I'm just acting crazy. And just like, where's the kids' birth certificates? How do we even cross the border? Our kids were like born in Mexico.
You're doing what gotta be done while everybody else is freaking out.
We didn't know how we were gonna get our kids across the border.
Y'all got less than 2 hours to figure that out. All of this time and nobody thought about none of this. This is mind-blowing. Did you think the United States government was just gonna lay everything out for you and say, here's a passport for your kid?
And we knew that if we stayed, we knew that we'd all be killed. I just didn't even take in that Jay's leaving in 2 hours. It was just, I wasn't crying. I was just running around the house. I didn't even take it in. I felt like I didn't spend those last 2 hours with my husband.
If your kids are alive, it's probably because you didn't spend them last few hours with your husband. When everybody's hugged up, you're handling your business.
I think it was like maybe 10 minutes saying goodbye. That's all I got because I was just so busy. Just trying to think. Trying to make sure that we were going to be okay.
What did you say to each other in that 10 minutes that you had together?
I don't think we said much. I just were looking at each other and just, that's when the tears just didn't stop coming down. I don't think I could talk. Our son, he was 2 years old. And he just knew something was wrong. He was Jay's shadow. He followed Jay around. Like, everybody would, every time they saw Jay, like, they knew they were gonna see our son with him, and they would like make a joke and call him mama, because like my son just wanted to be with him everywhere. He'd be in the bathroom, my son would be sitting there waiting for him to come out by the door. And if Jay would try going anywhere, like, he was just tied to his leg, and he sensed something was wrong because he was just seeing me go running, and Jay crying and Peter crying and Bibi crying, and he was just looking around. And
Yo, Val was the man of the family in that whole situation right there. Y'all sitting around crying instead of killing the trail. That's crazy.
And he just didn't understand what was happening.
I remember carrying my kids and with my baby. He was only 2 months old, and he was just there. And
did you say anything to him?
I was just whispering. I was just whispering to him, like, I remember saying, like, I love you guys and I'm sorry. And I had been whispering to them in the ear when I would put them to bed, because I already knew, like, I would like just apologize to them. And I knew my son was going to be the one that was going to affect it the most. And just able to take the moment and just, it was weird. Like, here I am thinking I'm doing something for them, but I know I'm hurting them. And I guess it's like, as a parent, I think that you always struggle when you think you're doing something good for them, that's gonna like make them suffer a little bit, but it's the best thing for them. And just taking a little moment where I was just holding them tight, and That was important to me. I wasn't even thinking about prison then. I was just thinking more like I wasn't going to be there. That's all I could think of. The government's calling and back and forth. It's just, they were kind of like pressing us a little bit, like, you guys are going to have to meet, at this time, and don't tell anybody. Make sure you guys are not found. They were more worried about that. Bring the recordings with you.
Did you still feel that you were doing the right thing in that moment?
I don't know. I do know this. That when it was time for me to go, and I said goodbye to Val, and we were in tears, and I said goodbye to my workers that were there with us. My son wouldn't let me go.
And how'd you explain that to the workers? The workers probably on the phone already calling the cartel, talking about, yo, these fools is wilding over here. Because now, after you just explained to them that Val is trying to leave you, now everybody's hugging and kissing and saying their goodbyes.
That was hard. Val was struggling to kind of get him off me. And I remember just being emotional, just jumping in the truck. I could hear my son screaming, Dad. And when I jumped in the truck, I questioned it. To be able to walk away from Val and leave him there, And in no time did she say, don't, I think we said to each other, it's going to be all right?
Her main priority at that point was to salvage her children. And it wasn't for y'all. For y'all, it was to salvage the moment. She was trying to save her kids.
We're gonna get through this. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna
we're gonna be fine. We're gonna get through this. It was something like that, but it was still hurt. It still hurt. Right?
It didn't feel right. It just didn't feel right. It just all felt wrong. And I wasn't saying nothing. I was just nodding. And I was just nodding my head back and forth. Like I just wanted to say, no, don't go. But I didn't. I was just nodding. It just didn't feel right. My son, his scream, like his cry, like we've never heard that from him. We've never heard that from him. And Viv and Peter were there, and they were just busting out in tears because it was like a cry of pain.
Yeah, he was wailing. It was lamentations. That shit was primal. He don't know what's going on. He don't know what you dummies did. He just knows he loves his daddy and his life, and he wants to preserve that.
Suffering, he was hanging on the door, and I was he was trying to open the door, but I was just trying to get him away from the door because I didn't want the people outside to know that their dad left, because I didn't want them to report that there was something going on in the house, because there was always security around and I didn't know who to trust.
I don't know how security let all that slide and ain't made a phone call yet, but was it there? So don't know the layout, don't know what it looked like. Maybe it was another stumble luck moment.
That day, they had started to raid these houses that were in LA, these stash houses, and all these things were already in motion. Because I remember getting that call from one of our associates saying, yo, they just hit the houses in LA. And I was like, shit. I was still there in Mexico.
Hung all their Chicago team out to dry. All the LA team out to dry. Every team in every state hung out to dry. Dang.
Still clean up our pictures, taking just stuff that we didn't want to leave behind. It was so difficult to like be thinking about all the stuff I had unfinished, you know? And like that, I was gonna have to leave Viv and the kid, my baby, and our family there. And that we didn't really have that plan set up. Admitting that, like, it was like in our minds, but not.
Admitting that. You hear that? Admitting that they didn't have that plan together. And that's the worst part. Like, how you do all this to try to keep your family alive and you leave a trail of breadcrumbs because you weren't ready.
And that we didn't really have that plan set up. Admitting that, like, it was like in our minds, but not like that moment. And it was sad, man. It was hard. It was hard.
Why do you think you didn't have that plan, even though you knew it was coming?
I didn't want to have a plan. I wanted to, like, continue to lie to myself and not feel that I was going to be taken away from the people I love most. I was so sad, man. I remember I couldn't even hold back my tears. One of the last things I did was change my daughter's diaper.
So the lack of plan was actually an act of denial.
And I could still imagine that day, like laying her down in that guest bedroom to change her diaper. And I could still see blurry from the tears that were in my eyes. That it hurt so bad to leave Viviana. It's just a terrible, terrible day for our family. Just trying to reassure everyone that, you know, things are gonna be good, you know. That conversation with my dad, you know, I'll never forget. Just so much, you know. I thank Viv for like trying to motivate me, keep me positive about something that she was dealing with so much on her own. But it was hard because nobody was telling me, okay, you know, like, you're doing the right thing. You know, everybody seemed to be against it. What I was dealing with is so hard, you know. Seeing the baby, like, giving it back to Viv was so hard. And then, like, thinking, like, I'm trying to tell my brother, come on, let's, you know, we're gonna have to get ready to go. And remember hearing my little nephew cry so bad, like he just felt something.
What was the last thing you said to each other?
I don't think that we even talked as much, you know. I don't think that the tears allowed us to
Y'all had all the time in the world. You wasn't doing shit.
let us say our goodbyes.
I didn't want to say goodbye to her. It was scary to think that, you know, that I could, like, lose, like, her, my family and everything. And just trying to, you know, so scary to the unknown for me and my brother as well, you know. And when I look at her today, she was always worth it. I'm glad I did it for her. Glad it was her. Like, she's the only person that would have probably ever have been able to get me to do something crazy like that.
But walking away from her must have been...
She didn't make you do nothing, bro. You did that. You and your brother made that decision. She didn't make you do a damn thing. Own that. Hold on to that responsibility. That was y'all. Mind you, y'all in it together, but she didn't make you do nothing.
Terrible. I mean, like I said,
because
like
you also...
drowning in emotions and feelings and
not
like,
knowing what's going to happen.
Yeah, and
Like,
honestly, I could tell you right now that although I was leaving her behind, she was in the front of everything. You know, like, she was like not behind me, but more in front of me in my future. You know, that's what I was searching for. Like I'm gonna go face this nightmare to like be with her again. You know.
But weren't you concerned that you got in that car with the agents, and then what if somebody found out and then they're still all left behind?
It was all that.
Because they weren't protected.
Yeah, I was upset that they didn't have like an escape plan for my family. They just only concern was get the two witnesses out.
And there was no like exit strategy for none of us out of there.
I remember thinking like, damn, like telling like, look, go now, like don't wait.
Don't wait. He was
go
telling
now,
me,
like, and I'm saying, go
wait.
get on the plane and go.
It was a bunch of us, and then I mean there was no flights. I mean they told us
the same day.
When we say this, you like think about it, we left food on the table.
Yeah.
We left everything in the fridge.
Everything.
Our clothes, every piece of garments and clothes and all kinds of stuff. We just left everything.
I took my baby and her diaper bag, and I was just like sitting on the sofa, like just...
We left our dream home, you know?
Lost without him.
Nightmare home.
I didn't even know. I'm like, I just wanted to get the hell out of there. I just wanted to get out of there. And there was just so many of us, and everyone's like scrambling around, and I'm just sitting there just with my one little diaper bag and just sitting there like, let's get out of here.
We jumped in the truck. 2 agents. Did you guys bring the recorders? We're like, yes. And we were emotional. It's okay, guys. You guys are doing the right thing. And they started driving towards the airport.
How many guys are with you?
2.
2 agents.
Just 2. And we go to the airport. And we went out to like the private side where the private planes are, and there's a hangar, and the military has a checkpoint there. And they asked us to like scoot down. They didn't want no one to see us. And they showed the diplomatic like IDs.
Yeah.
And they let us in, and we drove into this like hangar where there's an officer. I don't know if he was military or what it was, but he was actually there. We stood in the truck, but they got off and they had the lights off. And I remember they were looking at the federal police and they were hiding from them. You know, so that told me like they didn't trust them. You know, they were hiding from them. They're actually driving by or walking by. And, you know, there's a lot of federal police, like, and they're focusing on this one plane. It was kind of a big one, but it was a private plane in the dark in the hangar. We stood there for like a long time. Probably an hour and a half. And in between them, just calling about, just, have you left it? Have you left it? It's those type of conversations. Are you okay? And she would be like, they're asking for you. They're asking for you. I want to tell them, Jay. I don't know what to tell them. I'm like, tell them I went to meet someone, you know? I was so helpless, so...
Those are the most horrible lies I ever heard. Tell them I went to meet somebody. They saw you kicking and screaming. They saw your son kicking and screaming. They saw your wife breaking shit. Like, y'all need to think at that moment. Hindsight's 20/20, right? But damn, y'all out there bad.
I started having a little bit of anger. Like, I'm having anger because I'm sitting in this bulletproof truck with them and our family's over there. Like, this is for them. Me being in danger is one thing, and I was disappointed in myself. I was angry.
You should be.
It's just like nerve-wracking. Like, I think I always say I'm mentally strong. I just can't even. So many thoughts, so many things come into my mind, and our phones are ringing. Chapo's cousin is calling because they just had raided one of their stash houses in LA. And he's like, "Hey, check on your guys. They just hit one of the houses." No, it's us. That was getting us upset because we're still in Mexico. They had started like an operation.
The cat's been out the bag. The cat was probably out the bag before you even talked to your father. They were raiding houses.
And that was the first house they hit. I could go to so many houses, I think in Mexico. And we're still sitting in Mexico and phones don't stop ringing. We literally had bags, they don't stop ringing. We're not even paying attention to them. You know, I have people that are calling me.
So were you answering the call?
Yeah, those I would answer. Like, it's okay. Oh, but Val. No, she's all right. You know, she's upset. She's gonna be all right. But she's packing up a car. Leave her. Are you sure you want me to go with her? No, just leave her. Just making shit up.
Y'all lucky they didn't kill your family, bro. Y'all did that real stupid.
That was just the worst nightmare, I guess. The worst nightmare I could think of. And the worst part is I felt like we were doing it. We were the cause. And it took a few hours, and I remember a big plane lands. And I guess that was the plane that we were going, and they drive us up to the plane. And they're like, guys, whatever you do, don't look anywhere, just go straight into the plane. They didn't want no one to see us. The plane is like a cargo plane or something, because I remember it has the seats this way, like on a bench, And I remember like it was dark. It was really dark. The inside the plane was dark. So when I go, I'm not handcuffed, nothing. I go in the plane and I look, there's like 12, 14 marshals and agents in there. They have guns on them. They have like rifles and they have guns on them, and they're in the plane. And they're like, are you guys okay? Just talking to the agent. They're more in like operation mode. And we get down, we sit down, and we're with our phones, our bag of phones, and we each have our bag of phones, and it didn't take long for us to fly out of there.
And leave your family behind.
When Jay and P left, it's like, all I could remember was just seeing their faces. They just looked so lost. It just sparked something in me, because I knew like there was just no plan for us.
Nope, you're on your own, Val.
I couldn't get their faces, like the image of their faces out of my head, because they just looked defeated. And I knew that they were just only worried about us getting out safely. At that point, people were coming to the house, and they were knocking on the door. They were asking for Jay and Peter. These are the same people that would be at my house every day. Always there. Everywhere they went. We couldn't move around the city freely at that time. They had to keep tabs on them always. And I just didn't know what to say. And the clock was ticking, and I'm just trying to get everyone together and trying to get all the stuff in the car, and asking me, what's wrong? And I'm like, leaving. He's like, you're taking the kids. I'm like, I'm leaving him. He's cheating on me. And he's like, it's not true. We would never do that to you. Don't take the kids like this. And where are you going? And I'm like, baby, come with me, baby, come on. And I'm trying to put on this show. I need you to come with me. I'm so afraid, because I'm like, what are we gonna say? Like, why are we both leaving at the same time? Why would we be leaving with all the kids? I didn't know what to say, and I'm just like, baby, let's go, you're coming with me. And she's like lost. She's like looking at me, and she's just like frozen. She's not saying anything. I'm like, come on, babe, put the babies in the car, come on. I got in my car, and she gets in her car, and I'm like, just follow me. And we're loading bags in the car, and she's just looking at me, and she's scared. She's just nodding her head and like tears in her eyes. And I'm like, get in the car. And then by that time, other people showed up. They're like, what's going on? And I'm like, nothing. And at that point, I was just fucking scared. I was just scared. I was scared out of my mind. I'm like, okay, I gotta get out of here. So I'm like, oh my God. So I'm like, okay, I'm just leaving. And we just drove, and I'm calling to make sure my mother-in-law and my father-in-law are there. My nephews are there. Everybody's there, like, making sure that the whole family is together. And I'm like, we're driving out the subdivision right now. We're going to meet you on this street. We meet on the street, and we're like, we're going. And at that point, Viv called her dad. and him and my brother-in-law came. They flew in to the first place we went to was the airport to pick them up so they can help us drive back. At this point, there's like 8 cars following each other. And I'm like, we look so fucked up right now. I'm scared to separate. And I knew we should have separated, but I'm like, there's no way we could separate. I was just too scared to drive alone.
It's a 12-hour trip from Guadalajara to the border crossing at Laredo.
Every border town in Mexico is cartel infested because these towns are so vital to the massive drug flow into the U.S. Here we are in Nuevo Laredo, which is controlled by a rival cartel, Los Zetas, who are known to be the most savage cartel in Mexico. They have committed some of the most brutal acts of violence, like torturing people, beheadings, decapitating. I remember just how terrifying it was, not knowing if I was going to be able to get there.
The family were crammed into the cars. Val, Vivi, Vivi's dad and brother, Jay and Pete's mum and dad Margarito Sr., their older sister, older brother Armando and his wife, plus 3 teenagers, a 2-year-old, and 3 babies who were only a few months old.
Yo, that's a caravan and a half, boy, and they're hightailing it out of there.
The 8-car convoy began its journey.
First of all, the agents were like, I didn't think you guys were gonna show up. I'm like, thanks, man, you're not helping me. Like, I'm broken right now. And then they were hiding us through the checkpoint, the military checkpoint, into the private hangars where we're waiting for the plane to land. And my brother and I heard that the plane was going towards Mexico City, which is south of Guadalajara. We're like, why? Let's go that way. And they're like, no, for whatever reason, we had to go to Mexico City first. I'm like, no, let's just leave here, please. I felt that paranoid, like I want to be out of Mexico. Like we're not safe here. And no, we had to go to Mexico City, and they had rented like a hotel, and they had like the whole hotel was like closed down. And there was like a lot of agents, like I'm talking about like 50, 60 agents. I remember landing, and I was still able to communicate with my wife, Viviana, saying, please leave. Like, what are you guys waiting for? I was so pissed off that Val was packing stuff. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with this woman?
She was being smart. She was getting what she needed out of there, or what she needed somebody else not to have out of there.
I remember like that marshal in charge, he seen me on the phone. Like, why is he still on his phone? They bring us into this hotel room, and they surround us, and they're like, again, asking us questions, and it was so like hectic. Why we just wanted to leave. Like, my stomach hurt. I got sick. I'm throwing up all the way back. They're mad at me. I'm on the plane. It's miserable. They didn't take us the next morning. I'm just like, just wanting to leave. Like, I just want to leave Mexico. The phones are blowing up. Just like extended stay. Little hotel. The crazy part about this, we have a house, a stash house, 2 blocks from there, where I have like 3 of my workers sitting.
No.
And I'm like, fuck. And I guess they like got a whole floor, because I remember they kind of like covered us, and we went up to the elevator, and on the second floor the agents were actually out. They have their like rifles in their hand. They have probably the whole floor of hotel, like rooms. And they put us in this room, and a bunch of marshals come in. And there's like 4 agents and marshals in there with us. So it's like, it's got 2 beds, and it's like they're just sitting on the bed, and different places. Me and my brother Peter sitting on the bed, and we're kind of talking to each other, like letting know like what's going on. I remember he's showing me that Chapo's cousin, and then are calling, like they don't stop calling. And we just didn't answer. I'm checking up on Val. By the time we got to her room, Val had said that she was on the road, which was like big relief. I mean, it was relief that she was on the road, but it was like, I think they were traveling like 8 or 9, a caravan, 8 or 9 cars.
all luxury vehicles going toward enemy territory. That was scary to me. And I couldn't even say it. Like, what was I gonna do? It was like a risk anywhere any turn we took, it was risky. And I just kept calling her. It was just like, where are you? Because she was not gonna have phone service, right? And like, please call me every chance you get. Please call me. I would ask her about the babies, right? I was exhausted. I could have dozed off. It was late at night, but then I could have dozed off, and I remember waking up and I had no cause. That worried me. It worried me, like, it was like 5, 6 in the morning. No cause, like.
They gave
I
up
remember
on you.
getting up in the marshals are kind of, some are up, some are like dozing off, and I'm just like, I'm gonna just wash up. I remember, like, I'm gonna shower, it could be my last free shower, right? And because I don't know what was happening right before that.
Did they tell you anything?
They're not saying nothing. And Val's I'm calling, and she was like more closer to the border, and that was like a sense of relief. She's like, we drove through the night, I'm so tired. What are we gonna do? I'm like, listen, just drive to the border. Just drive straight to the border. Just when you get there, just explain to who you are. And I think we were making calls like, my brother Mando wasn't born in the U.S., so he can't just come across. My father is in the same situation, and he's a fugitive. I was trying to make calls and
Calls to
our attorney to
try and
use
make sure they could cross the
and say,
border.
we're gonna do what we could do, guys. Like, I feel like they weren't even paying attention to that.
They didn't care. They didn't care about your family. It's not their problem.
I understand that they had a lot going on, but their main focus was me and my brother. As it's always been, right? Like, fuck everyone else. Just, their easy way out is like, they always have the easiest plan. Like, no feelings, too bad. And I get it, right? Like, I guess they're not concerned about our family. They're concerned about their own or their case or whatever the case is. And since day one, I think all we would say, like, this is for our family. They have to be the center of, I always thought they would understand that. And I don't know, just a bunch of calls and just chaos. Once it was like 9, 10 in the morning, we left the hotel and they took us back to the hangar. And now it's, like, it's alive, right? People everywhere. Workers, I guess it's like a cargo type airport in that section. So they're like just all kinds of people. So they literally leave us in the truck. I'll tell you, for like at least 2 hours, we're sitting there in the truck. Nervous, right? And we're still making calls. We're tired. And I know that Val ended up going to a hotel.
I was too scared. It's just me in the car with my 2 babies in the back. It looked like this whole entourage, and we had to drive 12 hours to get to the border. I would drive to the border all the time, so I knew the roads. I knew them like the back of my hand, but I'm like, we gotta pass through all these towns. We look so fucking crazy, and it's the night, and it just looked like we had flashing lights, just like the spotlight on us. And we drove through the whole night. We didn't stop. We stopped one time for gas. But I was like, let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. I was freaking out with everyone, freaking out. And everyone's confused, and Mondo was like, what do we do? He kept saying, what do we do? I'm like, we go, let's go. When I seen him scared, it scared me. I think I was just more scared because I felt like, oh, what the fuck? What do I know? It just felt like everybody was looking at me to figure it out.
Yeah, including your husband. There was no plan. And then on top of no plan, there was no urgency from everybody else. You were the only one that was showing a sense of urgency. I guess that's something that you can't teach somebody. Just gotta have it.
I'm sitting there like, what the fuck do I know? I don't even have any direction. We had no phone service. I couldn't call Jay. I couldn't ask him what to do. And I just kept going, and my adrenaline was going. I wasn't even tired. We didn't sleep. I didn't care. I just wanted to get to the border. I just wanted to get there. And then the man was like, we're going to go to the hotel. We knew exactly which hotel we're going to. It's the same one we always go to. It's the Hilton. It's right there at the border. You could literally see the border from the hotel. And he's like, we got to go to the border. Like, me and my dad we can't cross. And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, we can't cross. We have no papers. They're not going to let us in. We can't go. I'm like, I can't leave you here. He's like, Val, we're going to have to wait. We're going to have to stay. We're not going to be able to get across the border. And I'm like, then we're all going to go to the hotel. And we went to the hotel. And I remember it was early morning. Still dark outside. And maybe like 5, 6 in the morning. And we get there, we're like, okay. And then man was like, I'm going to check in, I'm going to get rooms. I'm like, all right, we're going to sit, we're going to wait. And we're going to make sure they're going to let us cross. They're going to let us into the U.S. And then he's like, okay. So we go to lay down. And then not too long afterwards, my phone is ringing. And I jump up. And it's Mondo. He's like, Val, my nephew called his girlfriend. And he told her that we were at the border.
Yo, that's a goofy ass family, boy. That's a goofy ass family.
Why would he do that? Why would he do that? He's like, I don't know. He's talking to his girlfriend and he was telling her bye, and he said that we're at the border. And I'm like, I gotta know we're here. We gotta go. He's like, I know. We all got up. I think we weren't even there for a half hour. I'm like, we gotta go. We can't be here. They know we're here. And I'm paranoid because my nephew's girlfriend, her family's in the cartel.
Oh, God.
And baby's like, we can't leave Mondo. I'm like, they're gonna switch hotels. We gotta get out of here. They're gonna switch hotels. And so, as we're gonna leave, I'm so nervous and scared that I remember that I hit the side of it's like these topes, which is kind of like slows you down. I hit the side, it was like a steel one, and it just ripped my tire off the rim. And so we're in the middle of the street, on the busy street. We could see the border. It's like at the next stoplight.
Wow.
And I'm like, the fucking tire. So my nephews jump out and their Mondo jump down and they're trying to jack the car up and put the spare tire on. And he's like, let's go. And I was like, no, I can't leave the car because this one's under my name. That car was under my name. And I'm like, I can't leave the car. She's like, fuck that car, let's go. I'm like, no, we're going. And they're like hurrying up and it's dark, but the sun's starting to come up. And then they're like, no, we got it, let's go, we got it. So then we jump back in the cars. And mind you, we're like in the middle of the street at this point, and we just look so fucking crazy because there was just so much commotion going on. And so we drive up to the border and we get there. And they ask us, for our papers. And I'm giving them my passport. I'm giving them my kids' papers. I was like the first one to get there. And they're like, hold on. Because I'm like, go. And they were like, stop, no. You can't come in, stop. What are you doing? No. And I'm like, no, you gotta let us in. They're coming out the office and they're like, stop. And I'm like, no, they're gonna kill us. I jump out the car and I see Vivi and she's sitting in the car freaking out. And then he's like, you can't come in. You gotta wait. Everyone gotta wait. I was like, no, we can't wait. We gotta go in. He was like, no. Nobody moved the cars. And at this point, we're all lined up and the cars are stuck. And I'm like, they're gonna kill us. They're gonna fucking kill us. You gotta call. I don't care who you call Chicago, call the DEA, call the U.S. government. Like, you gotta call someone. They're gonna kill us. We gotta get out of here now. And they were like, you gotta pull to the side. So they allow the cars to come through. And they pull us to the side. And we're past the first light, but there's the second light that we can't come through. We're just pulled to that side. And then I'm like, listen, I said, we have to get out of the country. We have to get back to the U.S. We're U.S. citizens. And they're like, well, where's all the papers? I'm like, my kids, they were born in Mexico. And they're like, well, they can't come in because you don't have the right paperwork. I said, no, you don't understand. You don't understand. We're U.S. citizens. My son he's a U.S. citizen. He's got dual citizenship. Just by me being a U.S. citizen, he's a U.S. citizen. I just don't have the paperwork yet. But they can come in. And he was like, no.
They don't care what you don't got. They're concerned with what you do got. And we haven't got to the 2 grown men without papers yet. This is a complete shit show going on right here. But it's a determined woman screaming in the face, not taking no for an answer while everybody else is falling apart.
Oh, we have to make phone calls and we're calling Milwaukee, we're calling the lawyers, we're calling everyone that we could possibly call. And I remember my phone ringing. I don't know if Jake got in contact with someone or what, but my phone rings. And I'm like, hello, they're like, this is, I think his name is Matt. He's the one that was in charge. He was U.S. attorney from Milwaukee. He's like, listen, it's okay. I'm like, no, we're stuck here and they don't want to let us in. And my kids don't have papers and we don't know what to do. You have to tell them that you have to let us come in. And he's like, yes, don't worry. You need to calm down. You need to calm down. Everyone has to calm down. Just listen to me, what I'm telling you. And I'm like, what? He was like, they're going to take you into the office and you're going to show them all the paperwork you have. And they're going to let you come in. We're making phone calls. We're calling DC. They're going to let you guys in. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, but we're in U.S. custody, right? He's like, yeah, you guys are okay. You guys are going to be fine, I promise. And I'm like, okay. So I hang up. And then I'm like, baby, get out the cars. Come on, let's get out the cars. We're going into the office with the kids. And it was like cold outside, I remember. And we're taking the babies inside. We got in there and I'm like, here's our papers. This is what we have. And they're like, do you have any guns on you? Do you have any money on you? And I'm like, what? I'm like, no. They're like, okay, well, we just have to ask. And we need all the keys to the cars. Because we had to put the cars on the x-ray machines to make sure that you guys are not bringing anything back with you. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Why would they? You probably done it 1,000 times. They know who you are now.
Just let us in. And they were like, no, we just have to, this is routine. I'm like, it's not routine. So I called back the U.S. attorney from Milwaukee. And I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, what's happening? Why are they doing this to us? Why can't they just let us in? He was like, it's routine. They have to search the car. They have to make sure that nobody's bringing nothing back. I was like, I said, you don't understand. My brother-in-law, my father-in-law, my mother-in-law are still back at the border. My nephew called his girlfriend. Had to switch hotels. Like, they know we're here. Like, please just tell them to let us in.
Oh, so I didn't realize that. I thought that the father and the brother were there with them right now. Evidently they're not. Probably down the road a little bit.
Don't worry, you're gonna be coming in. They just need to, like, check everything first. And at that point, I just knew this was our life. It didn't matter, like, whatever Jay and Pete did and cooperated. I knew at that point that we were always going to be treated that way. They were going to always look at us like criminals. I knew it. And I felt like we made such a huge mistake. I just felt like...
And what? What was the mistake? Getting in the game or getting out of the game?
These are the people that are supposed to be helping us. These are the people that are supposed to be keeping us safe.
They're looking at you like a criminal that got themselves a get out of jail free card. They're going to treat you however they want to treat you. You're not one of the good guys as far as they're concerned.
You felt like you'd made a huge mistake by the corporation. Yeah.
Because no matter what, they were never gonna...
Bearing in mind you had a 6-week-old baby in your arms at that point and a 2-year-old. It must have been really distressing.
Yeah. I didn't understand why they just didn't allow my brother-in-law and my father-in-law to come. I didn't understand why they didn't let them come in. I didn't understand why they didn't make the calls. I didn't understand why they didn't do anything to help us. I don't understand. My brother-in-law sat there for 2 days, 3 days before they could help him. And I remember when they finally let us through, I was just like, oh my God, we fucking made it.
I ended up leaving Mexico City. They put us on, they have like a big, like, private jet. We're on the plane with a few agents, one of them being the agent from the gym. He tells me, he said, this is just so crazy. I'm like, what? He said, you know, my whole family knows you. I said, huh? He said, you grew up on 26th Street, and my family has a business that you would go to. He didn't want to tell me what business. Like, I knew you as a kid. And I was like, you know, I spent the time like just giving him different businesses that, you know. I think it was a hardware store. I just have a feeling he was just asking me questions, you know. But it's weird because he was asking us questions but about our life, but not because I was cooperating. It was more like talk, like curious to know things. Growing up on 26th Street, my neighbor next to me, who they own it was a construction company or like a electrical company. The house had burnt down. They turned it into an office, and it was like the house right next to us on the north side, my neighbor to the north. And the neighbor would always be nice to me and my brother. He would buy us like popsicles and always talk to us, and you know, his truck would roll up and he would leave it open and go in the office, you know, and they had like a kind of big window, and I'd see him all the time. And I remember his family, not quite like I remember he had a family. I just don't remember like back then, you know, their faces. But while I was cooperating, a new agent had came into the team that was like, I guess was handling our case over the years. And I remember like she came in. To me, I felt like she looked familiar, and I just kind of like look at her, but I guess I was just used to seeing different agents. And she said, you know my dad? And I said, huh? Like, you know my dad? Like, do you remember who used to buy you popsicles when you were a kid? And the minute she said that, I mean, maybe because I also knew her last name, I put it together. He's your dad?
That's crazy. Life full circle, 2 different roads. Crazy.
And she was like, yep. Like, oh my God. Like, I remember being a kid and sitting on the stairs just waiting for him to show up like every day, you know, around that 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, especially in summertime. Because he would always like, you know, crack a joke and say, hey, really nice man, you know. And she's like, that's your dad. I grew up, for a while I lived right next to you. And I'm like, wow. You know, like sometimes you can't make this stuff up.
Stranger than fiction.
And she works on your case.
She's actually probably still as part of the case, part of that team. And it was ironic is that she knows a lot of my childhood. That, you know, her dad definitely knew, you know, who my family was and how we grew up. And here we are, you know, so there's a chance. I do see that. Like, here's our neighbor, right? He's an agent, and we're drug traffickers. People do make it. People do good things. You always are known for like the bad people, right? Like if you think about Chicago, oh, the violence. You know, it just seems like the negative always is going to be what's remembered for, or how you're perceived. I was sitting in that plane, I just remember like being tired and we're just like making small talk and we still have our phones with us and stuff like that. That whole night, you know, our phones were just going off steadily. Everyone is calling. Our workers from the States. We land in Dallas. I remember we kind of taxi like close to another hangar. We wait there for a little while. And I see that, you know, customs comes, you know, to the plane and they bring the stairs and comes to the plane and they're like, all right, like, let's get off.
Weird to feel relieved to land at Dallas airport. To feel relieved to land in America was like, in the USA, was so weird, like to finally feel like, okay, we're not in Mexico, but having that thought about where's my family at.
We are walking down and I see he has our birth certificate, you know, an ID, like an ID picture in his hand. And when we land, it's a lady, she checks the document, okay. And she said, okay. And I remember I took the last step and I just like stretching out my legs a little bit and my brother gets behind me and he's like, okay. And they're like, all right, turn around. I said, excuse me? He said, turn around. Put your hands behind your back. And it hit me.
They put the handcuffs on us. That was weird. Like, my brother and I looking at us like, this is it. This is our life. From now on. You know? Handcuffs and shackles.
They read me my rights. And it's like, they took the phone, they started searching us. That was when like, reality just hit me. All that has came to this. In a way, I was like, well, what do I expect, right?
Right.
And again, I'm supposed to know this. I'm supposed to think about these things. And I can't even tell you, like, yeah, you were thinking like prison, but it didn't cross my mind. Not even that day, not even me, you know, landing, but it brought me back to reality 100%. That no matter what I did, no matter how much I sacrificed, and, you know, I was still gonna be, you know, a prisoner, right? I was still a wanted person and I was gonna have to pay for my mistakes for sure. You know, having those handcuffs, I mean, they shackled me was like, "Hey, do you have to shackle me?" Like, yes.
Just keep telling ourselves that we're doing the right thing. I remember asking the agents over and over, "Please, could you just check on my family?"
Yeah.
And it's weird to be like, you're on an express jet, like a brand new G5, U.S. Marshals jet. Speeding through, just take us to prison.
It's not just the steel on your legs and hands. I think it's more like the meaning, right? That's when I think the guilt kind of started like coming in, like I have to pay, right? For everything I did. So we sit there for a while, probably refueled, and jumped back down on the plane, this time shackled and handcuffed. And it was just different now. The ride was different. It's a little quieter, Me and my brother, I think we just like down. This is what we signed up for, and we end up flying into a small airport right out north of Chicago that actually we used before to transport money. And landing in the airport, I remember when the plane landed, me looking out the window, and I just saw nothing but police lights, and lots of them. We taxi in. When the door opens, it's cold, like it's really cold out. And the door opens, and it's like the agents walk in. I remember stepping a foot outside the airplane and standing there, and I just see the sea of like blue jackets, like DEA, U.S. Marshals. And I just started getting like pictures, flashes, the pictures being taken. And when I saw the cars and like all the agents and marshals just like staring at us, I think it was the first time I ever felt like, holy shit, I'm not just another drug dealer, right? I had no idea. To me, I was just selling drugs. I was just doing what I did. It was like a reality, like, why are we doing this? How did we get here?
Right in the middle of us recording this podcast.
Everything's up. Can you put your mic on?
Yeah, I know. Well, okay, so we're going to start right here?
Let me see where your mic is.
Phones started to ring. Val and Viviana rushed out of the room to take the calls, and very quickly, the mood changed. You could feel this nervous energy as Jay and Pete realised something was wrong. 50 and I left the house to give the family some space. An hour later, we returned to try and continue recording. Things felt very heightened.
Can you say what is happening today, or would you rather not?
But I think that our fear of the revenge is something that we don't touch on as much as I think that we should, Charlie. I think that we don't touch on that.
The fear of retaliation from the cartel for what Pete and Jay did is a constant threat in the lives of the Flores family. But it's not just the cartel that they're afraid of.
We pray for the best outcome for our family, and whatever that is, we're trying to, start fresh and start a new life with so many things, like demons like chasing behind us, like scratching at our feet.
I feel like we do live in fear. I feel like we're always going to live in fear. I feel like our life is never going to be normal.
Only a couple of months after the twins came out of prison, Val and Viviana were arrested in their own homes.
I seen them surround my house, and they came in with the SWAT team and army garb and shields and helmets and AR-15s. I couldn't believe that they came in ready to knock the door down. When I seen them coming, it looked like a bunch of soldiers in front of my house, and they're marching up the street to come to the house. And I remember running to my son's room, my daughter's room, and waking them up and telling them The feds are here, the feds are here.
Both of them were released after a few days, but they have pending charges against them for money laundering. This all goes back to when Pete and Jay turned themselves in back in 2008. Val and Viviana collected drug money owed to their husbands. Pete and Jay's older brother Armando was also involved and is named on the same indictment. The calls that Val and Viviana received whilst we were recording this were to tell them that Armando had turned and, to save himself, had decided to cooperate with the government against Val and Viviana.
Rob Dickens.
Viviana and I are looking at up to 10 years in prison, and that's a real number.
It's part of the reason why I wanted to share the story. These decisions we make, no matter how they are, or whatever we try to fix, it's coming at a cost to this day. We're still trying to make things right. We're still trying to correct.
Stop, though, because they didn't completely hold up their end of the bargain. They hid money. You probably think, yeah, that's a good idea. These things have only prolonged the process for them from 2008 to now, to still be dealing with court, to still be dealing with the shadow of the cartel on your back.
Our wrongs, and you know, we might get something right on one end and fail on somewhere else.
Because you're always being sneaky. You could play that innocent role all you want. You're always being sneaky, and it always comes back to bite you.
Everything comes with a price. We're sharing the story not to glamorize. If anything, I would think they'd be like, wow, you know what? They're doing the right thing by sharing the story so you can see how much suffering it is.
I guess no one really understands, like, you know, our husband's cooperation really made people upset. They had PIs in front of our house, and nobody understands exactly what we've been through because of our husband's cooperation, and I feel like we're still living through it.
Just this morning, like, we had a little laugh thinking that we were sitting, all four of us were sitting there discussing some issues, and at that moment of the bathroom scenario came back into our minds, when we're talking about coming in and cooperating. I guess where we're actually staying at, like, the bathroom was like right there. Mm-hmm. And we were actually talking. We did have a laugh about something that wasn't so good to hear. And Valerie put, hey, seems like we're still in that washroom, in that bathroom.
We're sitting on the bed and we're talking, and we're like talking about today was court, and we're talking about mine and Viviana's sentence and my brother-in-law, and we're just like trying to wrap our head around it. And I'm like, guys, this is exactly where we were
in Mexico.
2008.
No, but
like the same scenario.
It feels like that. It's kind of wears you down a lot.
It never ended. This is just a continuation of the process. And whatever this ripples through time, and whatever your kids are going to have to deal with in the future.
Just keep continuing going through things, and throughout, not only now, but throughout the whole sentence and through everything. And I look back sometimes and I look at my brother and I think the other scenario was just like to send our wives back home, don't let them live your life, and let me and my brother just do what we were doing, and just whatever happens, happens. Because sometimes I don't know if that would have been any better. I'm grateful for my family, but that situation is always like that question. Would we have been worse off, or would we have been better?
My attorney today, I had a conversation with him this morning, and he just was trying to put everything into perspective, and he was just saying that it's just really hard to understand what me and Viv, being mothers, being wives, and everything we've been through, and our husbands basically have a life sentence.
Yeah, but see, y'all want people to sympathize for you. A lot of people ain't gonna sympathize for you. You hid money, you collected money, y'all lived lavishly, you took trips that the people you want to sympathize for you could never take. A lot of those people ain't gonna sympathize for you. A lot of people feel like you just paying the price for what you did.
Because of the way that we have to live our lives, it's never gonna go away. And for us to be facing the time that we're facing, he just can't understand it. It's just hard for anyone to fathom, right? I definitely feel like it's a life sentence for all of us. As far as prison time, I feel like that hurts even more, because the crazy thing is I think that some way, somehow, we've always, like Jay said, lived with fear. And it's almost like it's part of our life. I feel like I don't have any regrets. I feel like this is where I'm at. This is where I'm supposed to be. And I take responsibility. I take accountability for all my wrongs, all my rights. I think that it's made me into a stronger person. I feel like it's made us all, resilient and strong. But I think that it's just us not being together is the scariest part of it all.
As things stand at the end of production on this season, the trial for Viviana and Val is set for mid-2023.
Keep it here. The epic next season is coming.
And we gonna be on the case with them. All right, y'all, we made it through the finale of season 1, evidently. They just said there'll be a season 2. We'll see how that goes. I mean, it shouldn't be a problem. These dudes is out of jail. The ladies are going through their court case. We're going to keep an eye on that. And salute to 50 Cent, man. He took a story that a lot of people didn't know about, that has its roots in the streets, that has its roots in Chicago. He took that story and he allowed that story to be heard. As for this episode itself, on its own, Val suffered the most in this whole episode. At the end of the day, she was the one that was doing what had to be done to salvage any type of chance of getting across that border, while everybody else caught the free ride. I mean, I'm sure they suffered too, but she was on her shit. She led the exodus. Sometimes rather than live in that moment, you have to get through that moment so that there's more moments, and she did what she had to do. I appreciate you guys for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. Peace.